Okay, anyway, my name is Radzi. I'm from the Philippines. I came all the way here just to listen and learn, apart from supporting on the existing network of Hong Kong and Macau. First, I'd like to thank you and welcome all of you who came from... Sino rito taga Macau? Okay, pa yung mga taga Macau. Yan. I'd also like to welcome fresh faces I see who are not Filipinos. Again, some Malaysians earlier. Where's the American guy? Oh, there. Hello, sir. Welcome. Welcome to other nationalities who are here.
Canada.
Canada. Yeah. We have a thriving network in Canada right now, courtesy of my friend who's from the US. And I'm here to introduce to you two very special people who's going to talk about the opportunity. For me, it's the greatest opportunity in my 21 years in the industry of sales and marketing. And they're going to talk about a new disruptor of disruptors. That's what I call it. Anyway, when I market to my friends. Because blockchain disrupted at least 19 industries in the last couple of years. And this one, I believe, is going to disrupt the disruptor. Okay, and I'm here to introduce to you the one who's going to introduce the main speaker for today. I met him 3 months ago in Malaysia. I never knew him before then. I was very skeptic when I was meeting with them, but when I got to spend a few days with them, and I met Amir also on the first trip, I really became a believer, and I'm very excited about this. Okay, so I hope you will be also. And this guy I'm talking about is a very honest, transparent guy. He's a lawyer. He has a PhD in alternative medicine. He's a veteran in the industry of network marketing as well. Okay, let's all give a warm applause to Mr. James Ong.
Good afternoon, everyone. Please don't fall asleep on me, okay? I'll do my best to make it exciting for you. Just as in the previous seminar earlier, can I have a quick show of hands? How many of you are not familiar about blockchain or cryptocurrency? Don't be shy, so that I know, how to, wow, half of you. So I think when we talk about blockchain and cryptocurrency, I think large population of the world is still falling behind. They don't really know what it's all about. So perhaps if I can give you the history of what blockchain and cryptocurrency is all about, you can appreciate much better when Mr. Amir eventually comes here to speak to you and educate you about the latest in the blockchain technology. So we all heard of Bitcoin, am I right? So you may not know much, but everyone heard of Bitcoin. When we hear of Bitcoin, unfortunately, majority of us, we hear about Bitcoin in a very bad light. Meaning, governments of the world, they paint Bitcoin as some kind of a scam, right? So why is it that Bitcoin has been labeled as some kind of a scam? If we trace back in history, Bitcoin is a digital asset, it's a cryptocurrency. Currency means you can use it to transact, change it for cash, buy goods and services. That's why we call it a currency, right? So it's a cryptocurrency, it's a digital asset, a digital currency. And the underlying technology behind cryptocurrency is blockchain. So blockchain is a technology. Now this blockchain technology is so unique that you cannot scam a transaction. When a transaction is being done or performed in blockchain, it stays there forever. You cannot change it, right? So because that is how the blockchain works, it means that people trust the blockchain as a ledger, right? So when people trust the ledger of the blockchain, it becomes a direct threat. It becomes a direct threat to the fiat currency. So the fiat currency that I'm going to use, thank God he's a Canadian and not an American. The fiat currency that I'm going to use is the US dollar. So the US government saw a big threat when Bitcoin came into the world. Because as you all probably know, the US currency since the early 1970s is no longer pegged onto gold. So the US government can basically print as much as they want and just tell the world this is worth $100 bill, $10 bill, and so on and so forth. And how the US government basically create the demand for the US dollar so that Americans can have a good life, right, is they control the world's economy. They control the OPEC countries. They control the commodities of the world. So if you want to transact in oil, for example, you have to use US dollar. So when you use US dollar for transaction, it means it gives them in the US the right to keep on printing the US dollar. Am I right? Hi, hello. You guys are falling asleep. That's why I have to say hello. So that's why when the US government saw Bitcoin, right, being born in 2009, and in 2010, the first Bitcoin transaction was performed in May, when somebody challenged and say, I would like to pay 10,000 Bitcoins if somebody will send me a pizza. By the way, do you all know what is the price of Bitcoin today? 6,000 plus, right? 10,000 Bitcoins for one pizza. That's the most expensive pizza in the world, right? But the significance of that is that when Bitcoin was being utilized to do transaction for the first time, right, to be able to buy goods, right, that changed the whole ballgame. That changed the whole thing. So the US government, through its control of the media and everything, they started saying, oh no, this Bitcoin is a scam. Bitcoin is used for terrorist funding. Bitcoin is used for drug transaction. Have you heard of those things?
Yeah.
Yeah, it came out in the, all the Wall Street media control companies, listed in the stock exchange. They are also afraid of Bitcoin because if, imagine the world's, I'm not too sure, but the whole stocks combined, maybe it's about 60, 70 trillion dollars. If just say 5 or 10% of people investing in stocks and shares decides to move to cryptocurrency, what do you think will happen to the price of stocks and shares in the world? It's going to crash, am I right? So they are afraid. So therefore, you have the George Soros and all these hedge fund managers, institutional players, and all these people. They are trying to protect their own assets in the stock exchange. And that's why they, through the media, are also saying very bad things about cryptocurrency. And that's why it's to no surprise today, all the history about crypto, Bitcoin, mainly because it's the mother of all coins, right? Bitcoin has been given very bad reviews. But really, is it truly bad? Is Bitcoin a scam? The answer is no. It's only because these guys are afraid because of what Bitcoin has become and what Bitcoin will be in the future. Is going to replace the fiat currency. So today, apart from just Bitcoin, we have thousands of alternate coins. So the whole cryptocurrency, you can say has really evolved into something more powerful than 2009. So in 2009, you don't have exchange where you can buy and sell and trade and so on and so forth. Now you have a lot of exchanges. You can cash out. You can send to this guy can go to the exchange and then just cash out into a fiat currency of his choice. So the whole industry has changed for the better. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
Right? So from the past, where they have been saying that this is illegal, this is used for terrorist funding, now governments, especially the G20 countries, the G20 countries this year in Buenos Aires in Argentina, they are now saying, let's not ban crypto, let's not ban Bitcoin, let's now regulate them. So when they regulate them, is that good or bad? That's good. They're just legitimizing the marketplace for cryptocurrency. So if you position yourself in a trend, a growing trend, you can make a lot of money, right? For example, guys, I don't know, if in the year 2010 or 2011 or even 2012, if you bought $100 of Bitcoin, right, you will not be seated in this room today.
Yes.
You'll be in the Bahamas, Bermuda, Northern Lights, I don't know where you'll be, but you will have more than $100 million, right? So I mean, that's crazy, isn't it? Right? Just a short time ago, if you just bought Bitcoin worth $100, you're a multi-millionaire today. Right? Those things happened before. Can it happen again? Of course it can. Every opportunity depends on where you are if you're right at the place at the right time, we don't have to be rocket scientists or PhD holder like me. We can become rich. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
So, yeah. So now, the history of cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, as I've just explained to you, it's now transformed into something which is more legitimate, and more countries are enforcing their laws where people have to do KYC. You know KYC? You go to a bank, you need KYC, right? You have to produce your passport, your valid ID. So if you go to an exchange to buy your coin and token, you also need to do that. Nothing wrong with that. Now, if you really don't want that, then you're really a drug pusher or drug dealer, or you're really a terrorist, right? You don't want to be traced. So I think the future of cryptocurrency is looking really bright. And why I say that, of course, being a lawyer, everything that I say, I like to substantiate. Why I say that, assuming this is the court and you are all my judges, right? I have to prove to you by evidence, not just by hearsay, isn't it? So if you say something, you have to prove it. How do you prove that the future of cryptocurrency is the future? 2 things or 3 things that I will demonstrate to you. First of all, the total size of cryptocurrency today is just about $220 billion. That means Bitcoin plus all the alternate coins, 220 billion market cap. You know iPhone, how many of you here have iPhone? The size of market cap of iPhone is 1 trillion. iPhone alone is about 4 times, 5 times greater than the entire cryptocurrency coin market cap combined. So what does that tell us? It means that crypto is at its infancy. It's still new. The opportunity for high growth is definitely there. It hasn't reached 1 trillion. It hasn't reached 10 trillion. It hasn't reached that mark yet. Okay? So the bubble is not going to burst. Have you heard of that? Don't join Bitcoin, the bubble is going to burst. That's why they frighten you. They continuously do that because when you talk about investment, everyone is fighting for your money, right? The Wall Street guys, the stock exchange guys, the people selling gold, everyone is fighting for your money. So they want to frighten you so that you don't go into crypto and you go into maybe stock exchange. Who will benefit? They will benefit, right? So if they will benefit, there is a conflict of interest. You cannot believe them when there is a conflict of interest. Now, if you look at the size of gold, is how much? 9 trillion. How many of you love gold? I can see gold here, right? You know what, ladies and gentlemen? The older people love gold, but the millennials, the younger ones, they don't care about gold. Am I right?
Yes.
The older people, including me, the older people, right? They call it the silent generation. The silent generation, the youngest of the silent generation is 73 years old. These are people born before the Second World War, right? And they love gold, they hoard gold, they buy gold to keep. Then the baby boomers, people born after the Second World War until 1964, they believe in property. They buy a lot of properties, Am I right?
Yes.
Then you come to the millennials, these are the guys, they grow up in games and all this type of stuff, right? Do you think they believe in blockchain or cryptocurrency?
They believe.
They do, right? I don't have to. So when you have a sizable group of people in the world, they can create trends. So when these people like the millennials, they believe in crypto and blockchain, the future is more or less secure. Are you with me?
Yes.
Now, let's go back to gold. I told you about how people are fighting for the investment of people around the world. Gold is 9 trillion. If 10% of 9 trillion decides to move from gold investment to cryptocurrency, that's 900 billion. If 900 billion enters the cryptocurrency space, what do you think will happen to the price of Bitcoin and all the other coins?
Raise up.
Is it going to go up or is it going to crash or go down? It's going to go up, am I right? So this is going to happen because I'm not just saying, like I said, you're all my judges, right? Did it happen before that people prefer Bitcoin than gold? Did it happen before? Yes. Last year, That crazy president, at that time he was crazy, in North Korea. Now he's a little bit better now. He's shaking hands with Donald Trump and he's shaking hands with South Korea, right? But last year he was crazy. You know, in Malaysia, I don't know if you know, there was his brother who was killed. Yeah, he did that, you know. So last year, he pointed the missile at South Korea. And the South Koreans got frightened. Instead of buying gold, they bought Bitcoin. Do you know that until today, Bitcoin price is higher in South Korea?
Yeah.
Do you know that?
Yes.
Because people are saying, oh, if my country is at war, if I were to bring gold, I'll be like the Vietnamese boat people. The pirates will get my gold, right?
Correct.
Do you know that? Yeah, during the Vietnamese boat people, a lot of them came to Malaysia before they went to other parts of the world. Why I use the Vietnamese people? Because I just came from Saigon, right? Amir, and we had a great time there, right? In Saigon. And yeah, Vietnam has really developed. The people came from all over. The Vietnamese boat people are now very successful in Canada. They are very successful in Australia. They're very successful in everywhere because they work very hard. Okay. So in Korea, instead of buying gold, they bought Bitcoin. And recently, we have also Venezuela, right? The economy crashed. Inflation rate is more than 1,000%. Money, fiat money is no longer worth anything. And another new country to join the fold is Turkey. Turkey. They have a problem also. They have a crisis. So when they have a crisis, instead of using their fiat currency and holding them, they change to Bitcoin. So it's just about perception. Ladies and gentlemen, one fine day, instead of the US dollar, people prefer to hold Bitcoin or maybe Amir's coin, right? Can you imagine what will happen to the US dollar? It'll be worth nothing. In fact, as I said, I want to prove to you, and in closing, before I hand the mic to Amir, because you are here not to listen to me, but to listen to him to confuse you. I told him, if he cannot convince you, just confuse you, and you guys will be quite happy with that. Now, just remember that there is one very famous investor called Tim Draper. Some of you may not know who Tim Draper is. Now, Tim Draper said that if you're still using the US dollar in 5 years' time, you're crazy. He's saying that the value of US dollar will in 5 years' time. And who is this Tim Draper? Tim Draper is a venture capitalist who got into crypto, and he's a very famous VC. You know what venture capitalists do? They invest in startups from seed funding to Series A and bring them all to IPO. You know what are the companies that Tim Draper invested in? Have you all heard of Hotmail?
Okay.
Have you all heard of Skype?
Yep.
I'm sure some of you Filipino uses Skype, right?
Yeah.
Diba? Diba? I have to show my Tagalog, capabilities once in a while. Tama ba rin? Okay, so he invested in Skype. He invested in Hotmail. He invested in Tesla. He invested in Twitter. He invested in Baidu, which is Google of China. He invested in so many good companies. Now, for a guy who invested on all these billion-dollar companies, is he crazy?
Indeed.
So when he says that the US dollar in 5 years' time, do you believe?
Yes.
I think you should take it seriously. Or at least buy some Bitcoin, right? So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not here to say something that I don't believe in. I'm here to share something with you that I personally believe very much in it, and I feel that you should perhaps open up your minds and embrace the technology that is going to change the world and disrupt a lot of other things in other industries, as what he has highlighted, 19 industries. I think with Dbos it's probably much more than that. So without much further ado, I would like to introduce this gentleman from Canada. We are so fortunate. Can we give him a really good welcome?
Thank you, James. All right, so today I'm here to talk to you about Dbos, otherwise known as the Distributed Blockchain Operating System. But before I do that, I'd like to give you a bit of an introduction. So who am I, right? Exactly. So just to give you a little bit of background, I've been programming since I was 8 years old. So I started out programming because my mother had a computer at the time, but she wouldn't let me play games. And I really wanted to play games, but she would not buy me any, not let me get any. So I thought to myself, okay, so how do I fix this problem? And then one day, a Scholastic issue came into my school. And what Scholastic is basically it's a catalog where kids can buy different toys and stuff, and like little experiments for science and whatnot, right? Inside that catalog, there was something listed under the junior high section, because it went up from grade school all the way up to junior high. But it was called Learn How to Program in BASIC by a company called Interplay. So I thought to myself, hey, if I can't buy any games, if my mother won't get me any, maybe I can make my own games, right? So that's what I did.
Wow. 8 years old, huh?
8 years old. So from 8 years old to around 12 and 13, I was programming games. I started out with 2D games in BASIC, and then I moved on to a language like BASIC called Dark BASIC, where I did 3D games. But still, I was limited by the confines of the language. BASIC is not very good for developing large applications. So I was looking for a suitable language, and that's when I found Java. And I've actually been programming in Java since. So well over a decade. In addition to that, I actually went to the University of Waterloo, Honors Software Engineering program in Canada. I spent 2 years there in the co-op program before dropping out and working on a project called Goldcoin. And that was in May of 2013. So I've been in this space developing, like actually working on blockchain code for the last 5 years. So that's just a quick introduction about myself. So today I'm going to talk to you about what currently exists in the market versus what we offer, and why it's important that the problems that I'm going to introduce to you today are solved in the space for the market to continue, for the market to grow, okay? So basically right now, as you guys said, I think only half of you or so are familiar with blockchain. So I'll give you a quick introduction on blockchain. So how blockchain works. Essentially what you have is a distributed ledger. So it's a history of transactions that goes way, way, way back, except each transaction is cryptographically tied to the previous one. So in a matter of speaking, each Bitcoin block is built on top of the last block's cryptographic hash. And what this does is actually provide security for the entire chain. So that security is the basis of what forms the peer-to-peer nature of Bitcoin that allows you to trade without trusting a middleman or a bank, right?
You cannot alter.
You cannot alter, right? It's permanent. But there's a problem with Bitcoin. The problem with Bitcoin is that there's something called the block size. And the block size determines how much space can each block take up on your hard drive or in memory. And currently, with that block size in place, you're limited to a transaction rate of anywhere between 5 to 7 transactions per second. And that's way too low. So there have been solutions proposed to fix that. One of these solutions is called a Lightning Network. And this solution pushes up the transactions per second up to millions. But there's a problem. This solution requires that every payment vendor that you go to, so you go to a shop, like you go to buy some coffee, right? If you try to buy it with Bitcoin without going through a Lightning Network, it will take you anywhere between 10 minutes to an hour, and by then your coffee's cold, right? So if you go through a Lightning Network, it'll be faster, but you have to pay an upfront fee first to establish a payment channel with that shop. And every shop you go to, you have to pay that fee. So I don't know about you, but I don't feel comfortable paying $10 to every shop or every person I want to trade with just to be able to trade quickly with them, right? So, aside from Bitcoin, we also have this thing called Ethereum. How many of you here have heard of Ethereum? No? Okay. So Ethereum tried to improve on what Bitcoin already did, and also introduced a concept into the space called smart contracts. And what smart contracts are self-executing contracts where you don't need to have middlemen to handle the transfer. You know, the code actually handles the execution of the contract. Now, some smart people decide, oh, hey, we can take this smart contract software and we can adapt it to build decentralized applications on the blockchain. This also has a problem. The smart contract format, the structure, was never initially designed to run decentralized applications. So what is happening right now in Ethereum is if you go as a developer and you want to build your application on Ethereum, you have to go and download the official client, which is called Geth. And then when you try to load up the blockchain transaction history, it's growing faster than you can download it. So it's a really big problem that they're trying to solve right now using different techniques like sharding and whatnot. But the point of the matter is none of these technologies were built from the ground up for decentralized applications. But that Dbos is, and that's what I'm here to talk to you about. So let's go over here for a second, and I can show you the differences between what we offer and what is currently available in the space. So we have the first to fourth generation blockchain on this side. So basically this is your Bitcoin would be first generation, Ethereum second generation, something like EOS is third generation, and IOTA, I don't know if you've heard of it, is fourth. But either way, they're all sort of single channel in the way that they operate. That is to say, it's one network, and everybody's data is in that same network. So it's all tied together in one little chain that goes forward, right? Now IOTA tries to do it somewhat differently, but at the end of the day, it's still, you know, it's not parallel, right? So because of that, all the data ends up in one place. And then when you want to download that data, you have to download the whole thing. It doesn't matter if you only care about, say, transactions between you and Starbucks or whatever. You have to download the whole thing. Now, on mobile clients, like for end users, that's not a problem. But for the developers, it's a big problem. Because what it means is that when they try to build apps on top of that chain, they have to face a large amount of delay and latency in their applications, which they don't want. They want the applications to be fast, right? In addition to that, we also have a problem with unwanted data that's actually in the blockchain, but has no purpose anymore. So once you enter a record into the blockchain, that record is permanent and it is never removed. That's a good thing when you're doing payments, but when you're doing applications, it's a bad thing, because what happens when that data is no longer useful to the application, or the application is now defunct? So the application may not exist anymore, but all the users in the network still have to deal with that junk data that's stuck in there, right? In addition to this, you're limited to the given protocols of the given chain. So say, for instance, you go build on Ethereum, you're limited to using Ethereum's protocol for that. In our case, we actually provide you an interface whereby if you adhere to that interface, you can make any protocol you want. It could be a traditional blockchain protocol, it could be something completely different. It's fine. As long as you adhere to our interface, it will still work with us. So what do I mean by work with us? What do we provide? Well, we provide a main chain that actually serves as a security and checkpointing chain only. So it services things like API requests, and people will spend tokens in order to checkpoint their chains, or to archive their chains, or to contact other chains. So the idea is that we have one main chain that is there, and it's acting as a security for multiple different blockchains. Because of this, we are segregating the data. So say we have different applications. Say I have a version of WeChat that I'm running on the blockchain. Well, mine would be running in its own side chain, but it would be borrowing security from the main chain. So, but if you have, like, say for instance, an Alibaba app, you don't need to worry about my data. You can just load up your side chain and only be concerned with that data. But collectively, as a network, we're secure together. In addition to all this, we also have problems with data latency. which is for high-speed application requests. Right now, you can't do them on blockchain. Why can't you do them on blockchain? Well, because there's too much data, and if you send it at a very high frequency, the space builds up, and then all of a sudden your hard drive becomes full, right? If there's not enough space to go around for people's hard drives, then all of a sudden only a select few will be running full nodes. In addition to this, any developer who wants to then go in and develop will have to sync up like sometimes 100 gigabytes worth of blockchain data. And that's kind of absurd, right? So in our method, when you connect up initially, you'll load up your sidechain application, right? So you'll load up your version of WeChat and whatnot, right? The end user will connect to the main chain. The main chain will, through API requests, determine what network the user wants to connect to. So it'll say, I want the WeChat application. And then it will load the WeChat blockchain. So what advantages does this also have is that you are free to develop whatever you want. So you're not tied down to that system. And because of the fact that we have this technology called a buffer chain, it enables high speed, low latency communications. How does it work? Well, communications don't always have to be recorded, right? So you could have a communication that only lives for a certain period of time, that has an expiry date, so to speak. Something which you don't see in blockchain today, but something which is necessary for distributed applications. So let's say an example of this would be video game servers. So say you have a multiplayer game, right? And you connect up to the multiplayer game and you're playing with your friends and everything seems fine, and all of a sudden, boom, it's gotten so slow nobody can play, right? Why did that happen? Well, sometimes that happens because there's something in the industry called a denial of service attack, specifically a distributed denial of service attack. And what that means is that some hacker has gone and infected a lot of people's computers and uses them to attack your hosting server. So they will send bogus data to your game server, and that bogus data will essentially cause everybody to slow down. Our application will actually prevent that, because the idea is that you're now peer-to-peer, and every person who's running your game is now their own part of the sidechain nodes. So before, maybe it was 1,000 computers that the hackers were controlling, attacking your 1 or 2 servers. Well, now it's 1,000 computers that they control versus however many people play your game. Maybe you have 500, maybe you have 100,000. It doesn't matter. But now they won't be successful in their attack. In addition to this, we have stuff like in databases, where you can service a lot of requests and get rid of the need for content delivery networks. What are content delivery networks? Content delivery networks are like Akamai and Cloudflare. The idea is they provide services closer to home, such that you don't have to deal with the extra latency of going all the way across the planet to get a file, right? But this actually solves that for you. So you can actually have a database application that will grow with your needs. And you only have to pay as much as you use. You don't have to go and requisition a 28-core Intel machine just to service a few requests, but still have the scalability that you need, right? So these are the sorts of things that blockchain enables us to do, and we can actually achieve or we're targeting a transaction throughput of 1.2 million transactions per second without Lightning networks. So to put that in comparison with you guys, the fastest blockchain out there, IOTA, runs at around 64,000 transactions per second without Lightning networks. So we're talking about a great leap forward in what we can accomplish just by segregating the data and having the security still being backed by the main chain here. In addition to that, we have something that we want to release with the core application. So in order to help developers, a lot of developers right now, I know personally, because they have problems with interfacing with all these new blockchain systems. Say they want to go develop on EOS or Ethereum, right? Then they have to go read the API and then sort of figure it out themselves, right? So what we're going to be launching with is a bunch of templates, like a simple client game server, a simple payment system, simple database. So we will have done already the sort of work that they're looking for as an example, and we provide that to them in addition to the API. So does anybody have any questions? Or do you just
You understand?
Very technical.
You have a question? Okay, so you know, in our application space, for instance, you have on Android, right? You have Android, most of you installed on your phone, or iOS, right?
Yeah.
Well, there used to be something called Windows Mobile. I don't know if here you people have heard of it or not. Windows on a phone, right? The reason that Windows on a phone failed is because they didn't provide enough support to developers to develop their own apps on the phone for Windows. Because it was a closed architecture, it was a closed system, and it was hard to access, and they didn't provide many great examples. So we aim to rectify that with Dbos. So, no questions, guys? Sorry, it's very technical, but the whole point of this thing is that we will provide a solution for decentralized applications that they currently require, but they do not have. So right now, if you want to build a decentralized application on Ethereum, for instance, which is the most common one, you end up having to wait, hours sometimes for your blockchain to sync.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm live now.
Okay.
Yeah. Basically, I guess to sum it up, it's by analogy, everyone is familiar with iOS or the Android, right? And a lot of you have Android phone. So, with Android phone, you have apps, right? Mobile apps, you have apps. So basically, he's building Android on blockchain, right? And because the speed is so fast, I think I don't need to use this. Because the speed is so fast, and plus all the side chain, buffer chain that you can link with and interface with the main chain and get the benefits and security of the main chain, you are now able to come with us if you're a developer of these apps, and then build games, build whatever you want to build, because you can build your own blockchain on our main chain. So the application is very, very wide, and that will really disrupt a lot of existing public chain.
There will be an easy migration path for those running on Ethereum. So the idea is at launch we're going to attract as many Ethereum developers that we can. But we are also going to have our own applications launching on the chain first. So it won't just be a bare technology, no use. It's going to be uses from the start.
Yes, and the success of, for example, Android is because there are so many developers that's willing to come on board and make it into something really good, rather than the Microsoft version, right?
Yes.
Which is a bit of a failure because they couldn't get the developers to come in. So here we are able to and will be promoting a lot of that. It's because it's open source template, it's going to be simplified, it's going to do a lot of groundwork for the developers to come in. And of course the speed is definitely a very big attraction, minimum 1.2 million transactions per second. It's really going to disrupt the blockchain world. And I think if you look at it, the analogy, I'm a layman, right? I'm not a techie guy, I'm only a lawyer, right? What I can see is that if you are in the use, if you use the video and you try to load it on the old blockchain, you probably see lagging. But now with this one, because the speed is so fast, you can actually play games on it. It's going to move very fast.
Yeah, and we're going to have an example of a game to start with. So that this is not just vaporware that we say can do this stuff. We will show can do this stuff.
So Amir is well prepared for this kind of thing because he had, as he explained to you, he was a gamer before, and not only that, he developed games. But what he didn't tell you was he was a hacker before. You missed that out, right?
Okay,
So-
just to give you guys a little bit of background, I'm not going to cover that area, but the last company I worked for was a company by the name of Secure City Solutions in Ottawa. And what they did was real-time video compression for surveillance agencies. So like the FBI, the Canadian Mountain Police, Ottawa Police, those kinds of places. And so what I actually did was I implemented the link security for the video compression tech that they have. And that implementation went to the FBI's internal lab and was approved as being safe for their use, internal use for FBI.
So yeah, it's a combination of his expertise that allows him to build something like Dbos. Because if you just talk to a cryptographer, a blockchain expert, and you ask them to build the platform of Dbos, but because they were not a hacker, they were not a gamer, they were not, it's very hard to put it all together if you don't have those expertise. Yeah. Would you like to answer that? Is that a question?
Oh, no, I don't know. Okay.
All right.
Okay. Yeah, that's the case here, and I hope you'll give us a shot. You can always check us out on dbos.global.
Yes.
And we have a more in-depth white paper on there.
Yes.
There's also going to be a full technical white paper sometime end of November.
Yes.
So,
Okay, so with that, I think we will close here. And those of you who may want to ask more things about blockchain, just come forward. And if you need to take picture with him, maybe you can also do so. Thank you very much, and let's give him a big round
Thank
of
you.
applause.
Oh, okay. What do you think? Answer that.
So anyway, yeah, we'll
So-
talk to you later. Okay, Rose, where are you? I don't know. I mean, you want to take photo?
Yeah,
Yeah. Can you?
group picture. So, ano na? Elma, ka na. Paano gusto mo kanina?